My name is Ian Sullivan from Safety Solutions Training. We're a training company based in Cardiff, and over the past 20 years we've had the pleasure of delivering very bespoke specialist training to over 350 organisations throughout the UK. So this is an example of some of the organisations that we currently provide training services for. We work with many of the local authorities, certainly here in Wales, as well as a great deal of housing associations across the Welsh regions, Bristol and the Midlands areas. We work with a number of charitable organisations that include women's aid groups and organisations supporting individuals who have substance misuse issues. We work with homeless charities such as Crisis and The Big Issue. With the current health crisis, many of our training sessions are currently being delivered online with Microsoft Teams or Zoom. And I'd like to give you a little indication of our conflict management and lone worker personal safety training course. So at the start of the session, we look at the areas we're going to explore. We're going to cover personal safety in the workplace. We're going to look at online digital security and communication and body language and how we read and perceive threats, the fight or flight response, how we respond to escalating situations. We're going to look at various case studies in terms of, well, what would you do in this situation? And also then, where everything has been tried, tested and perhaps failed, what does the law say that a member of staff can do to protect themselves, a colleague, or indeed any other person who may be being attacked? And at the end, post-incident, the need to record incidents and how a member of staff effectively records that so the organisation can investigate it to bring in a safe system of work and provide the relative respective support for that member of staff. So we're going to start with looking at some of the key legislation. There as organisations, there has to be compliance. And certainly over many years, you've got the Health and Safety at Work Act, the management of risks, how we set up safety representatives and safe systems within our working practices. And there's certain things we need to report under RIDDOR regulations. And in 2007, with the introduction of the Corporate Manslaughter and Corporate Homicides Act, making organisations accountable and individually accountable then to ensure the safety of our staff. Organisations need to identify the types of risks. Are our staff at risk of any sort of medical situations, dog bites? Are some staff responsible for opening up the offices or the workplace at the start of the day, or locking up at different times, or going in at weekends, or using our office facilities outside of normal working hours? And the risks of staff who undertake those types of roles. The general risks of trips, slips and falls within our workplace environments as well. And stress with the current health situation and crisis, and many people working at home, the additional challenges of stress upon individuals is another factor. And very much a factor for me and here at Safety Solutions, where we focus then on managing for those staff who, as a result of their role, come into contact with people who get angry, frustrated, can be aggressive towards staff, and how staff stay safe, manage that confrontation and look after themselves in quite difficult or challenging situations. So then, relaying that into the Health and Safety Work Act, as employees and as an organisation, employees should be encouraged to report certain incidents in meeting their obligations under the Health and Safety Work Act. And the requirements being that they have a responsibility to report any incident in which they're either abused, threatened, or indeed assaulted in circumstances related to their work. Safety Solutions look to discuss what the terminology means regarding abuse. Threatened, when a member of staff feels threatened, frightened, scared in a situation. When the person threatens to punch them, hit them, attack them, sexually assault them. When the person says they know where the member of staff lives and can have an impact on their family, their vehicle, whatever it might be. The threats and the need for a member of staff to report a situation where they themselves feel threatened, or indirectly where that person has made a disclosure threatening another member of staff. We also look at physical assault, where a member of staff has been assaulted in circumstances related to their work. And this can be a push, it can be a poke in the shoulder, a slap, it can be a punch, it can be a kick, it can be a bite. But the importance then for staff to appropriately record that incident. Not only that incident, a sexual assault, where that service user, not out of anger and aggression or frustration, has sexually assaulted a member of staff. And indeed, it's the perception of the member of staff as to, was that particular contact done from a sexual perspective, the need to report this. So as an organisation, we can investigate it and we can support that member of staff and introduce safe systems to do our best to ensure that it doesn't continue in the future. All in compliance with the Health and Safety at Work Act. As the training progresses, we look at the different types of triggers that can cause conflict. And I'm always keen to find out what the triggers are within your organisation. So having identified the confrontational cycle, we look at the responses of staff, negative, positive body language, as well as communication strategies as well. So when we look at negative body language, we look at some of the things that when we get uncomfortable and feel angry or upset ourselves, which is human nature, that we sometimes unwittingly do. And using the large screen, how this can come across. So contrasting the negative use of body language, you look at, well, what should staff be doing? And what are the considerations, not only in terms of our tone and the words we use, but how do we convey that in our body language? How do we use body language in a more positive way? Not just ourselves. How do two members of staff or more react to a situation? What impact does the crowd have on a situation? So we look at how we de-escalate confrontation in a better way. During training, we stress the importance for staff to undergo any checks that the organisation has with regard to the service user. This will provide some indication as indeed whether it's safe for them to go on their own or should they be accompanied. Should, for example, because of a previous incident regarding that particular service user, is it actually not in the best interest for that member of staff? Is it better possibly for a male member of staff or a female member of staff to engage in that particular visit? So organisations have a duty to assess the risk and use some form of client alert system to make staff better prepared when engaging in lone working visits. We encourage staff to check those databases, to carry out any other searches available to them in order to find out as much as possible before undertaking that particular visit. So, having discussed that in a highly visual way and using the accounts and experiences of the delegates themselves, we talk about general things around personal safety in the workplace, travelling to and from, other safety elements that may have been introduced at the start of the day. We then return to our initial list and we look at a case study review. And based on the types of examples that staff shared right at the start of the day, we say, right, how does a member of staff deal with aggression? So when dealing with a service user, appreciating the age of the service user, but how do they deal with that aggression? What would that look like in a certain situation? So we tailor a scenario based on your workplace environment. My objectives are these. How does a member of staff feel? What would they be thinking? And what would they do? How would they deal with this situation? And using the likes of breakout rooms or general discussions through question and answer is a great way to analyse and to come up with safe strategies and safe systems to address these and any other situation. We also look at the law regarding self-defence. So when a situation gets at such a critical level, the member of staff is in danger. And what the law says with regard to use of force, how they can protect themselves, and ensuring they do so that when force is used, it's done in the most minimum and proportionate way, which is seen as being reasonable. Not only in terms of protecting themselves, but their colleagues, or indeed anybody from an attack situation. Towards the end of the session, look at post-incident. When an incident has occurred, how does the organisation investigate it? How do they provide support for the member of staff who's been affected? Not only that member of staff, but other members of staff who may also feel frightened or scared because of the situation. So the investigation, and we return then to the incident reports and how, if we get our incident reports right, we are better reflecting that scenario or situation. So the organisation has got more understanding of what actually went on. We've also got a written record, an audit trail of that particular event, so that if there's any form of tribunal, civil or criminal litigation, we've got an accountable record that can be shared then with any investigative authority, health and safety going forward. We look at how staff effectively actually write an incident report during this aspect of the training. I hope this video has provided you perhaps with an overview of not only content, but how we're able to deliver this to give us the best possibility of creating that training experience for meaningful training for staff. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you.